But you know the drill, Kiki. So we are on, I mean, of course, it's got getting recorded and everything. The drill is you introduce yourself. And of course, I thank you for being here. It was a pleasure speaking to you in conversation with a beautiful mind, lovely conversation. And whoever's seen it has said it was a lovely conversation. And hopefully we'll have a conversation. Of course, Kiki, the professor, is going to teach. That's a different thing. But hopefully
it will be interactive, and we will still continue to converse.
Perfect. So please, Kiki, your show.
All right. So welcome, everyone. I am Kiki Grossman, based in the Orlando, Florida area of the USA. And I am delighted to be here with Vikram and to bring to you a class that I teach everyone that I teach conflict resolution to. And it's called Self-Regulation in Conflict Resolution. So I have a PowerPoint presentation for you. I promise you, it is not death by PowerPoint. It is not going to bore you. This is going to be interactive. And I hope that you are going to feel engaged. So without further ado, let's start the show. Welcome to Self-Regulation in Conflict Resolution. In my mind, this idea of self-regulation is at the very foundation of our efficacy as conflict navigators. And I say conflict navigators, even if you aren't a mediator, you are a conflict navigator because you are a human being. And unless you're living in a cave by yourself somewhere, you are around other people, and every day has its own little flavor of conflict in it. And so the premise is that when we are able to regulate our physiological response to conflict, and we are able to regulate what's happening in our minds, we're better poised to regulate what's happening here. And if we're serving as the mediator, what's happening here. So our roadmap for today, I'm going to begin with a heads up because I'm a lawyer and I have to. We'll look at the ease meter. I'm going to just pay a little bit of notice to your skepticism, which is fine. We'll look at the reason for doing this and a little bit of the science, and then Vikram and I are going to do some practices. So you are in for a treat. So our heads up, don't worry, Vikram, it's going to be fine. So please consult a physician before beginning any exercise or breathing regimen. You know that. And please refrain from any practice that's contraindicated for you, meaning that a professional has said, this isn't good for you to do, please don't do it, or that does not feel comfortable for your body or mind. So some of these things that we do in our mindfulness practices can sometimes be triggering, or they can be uncomfortable for certain people due to the things that have happened to them in the past. So please pay attention to not only your body, but also your mind. So let's get to this ease meter. Now I'm gonna ask you this, Vikram. On a scale of 1 to 11, so 1 to 2 ones, 11, with 1 being less and 11 being more, what is your sense of mental ease in this moment? You don't have to give me your number.
Whatever.
And what?
Okay, I'm going to give you my number.
Okay.
It's like at the top of the chart.
You're an 11 right now.
Yes, always.
Okay, fantastic. And what is your level of physical ease?
Top of the chart.
Over the chart. Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask our viewers, take a moment to think about this right now. And I am going to encourage you to be authentic with that number. I'm going to tell you that some days I am, depending on what's happening, I'm sometimes at a 5. And if I've gotten injured through all the various activities, I do my own yard work, I'll get out there, 54 years of age, playing tennis, things happen. Sometimes my physical ease isn't great. And sometimes it's real high, like Vikram's is today. And so wherever you are is wherever you are. And I'm going to never ask you to relax. I'm not going to ask you to change your number. I'm just going to ask you to be with where you are with compassion as we move through this series. And when we get to the end of this, I'll ask you how you're feeling. Okay. So you have permission to doubt throughout all of this. Skeptics are welcome. I teach mainly lawyers, mediators, and nascent lawyers, those undergrads who want to go to law school. And so I teach to a very skeptical crowd. So if during this presentation you're finding some skepticism arise, what's this crazy lady talking about? That's okay. I welcome that, and I welcome your skepticism because it means that you're analyzing and you're thinking. And what I will invite you to do is experiment with what we're talking about today. If some of the things that you are unpacking with us today don't really fit for right now and you don't want to try them, put them in your pocket, and later on in the day or the week or the month or the years to come, they may serve you. So Vikram, I'm going to ask you this. When you think, you're in India, and so India is the cradle. India is the place that we owe all of our thanks to for these practices, mindfulness, meditation, yoga. What comes to your mind when you think of these things?
Well, let me tell you, whenever you ask me that question, for me, it's just part of me. I mean, don't even have to think about it. Because these are words, and of course we know what they are, but never something which is like something alien. Of course, it's not alien for us. It's just part of your life. You just do this.
Right. So it's so integrated. It's so integrated within your life. And I think that is such a beautiful way to approach this, because it's nothing, it doesn't have to be anything esoteric. Now, rightly so, there are religious practices associated with these things. And I think that for me, that it's a beautiful experience to have participated in them. But these can also be done by people of all faiths or no faith. And mindfulness essentially in our Western culture has come to mean being in the present moment with whatever you're doing. And being in that present moment with a whole lot of compassion and awareness that there is a certain impermanence to our lives, our emotions, the things that happen. And so being able to ride that wave of emotion, being able to ride the wave of experience, that is mindfulness. And meditation is very much paired for that. And yoga, again, I go back to our beautiful foundation and the beautiful practices that come out of India. Those practices are old. And of course, in the West, we have made them, I think, a bit fancier than they need to be. But these are physical movements that we do with the spirit of mindfulness to enhance circulation and enhance our well-being. Did I sum it up?
Yeah,
Okay, Vikram?
Perfect. You're the professor. Whatever you say is right.
Oh, well, in all humility, that is not, that's not how I view it. But I know that I'm from the West, and I have, even though I've been doing this work, I've been meditating since I was 14. And so I guess 40 years, and been practicing yoga since I was in my late 20s. So very long time. I have so much to learn. The more you know, the more you realize you don't know much.
Yep. But at the same time, Kiki, you have not introduced yourself. Let me tell you that.
Oh, that's hysterical. I thought that I gave you my name.
That's it.
Oh, you know, I'm a double Scorpio, Vikram. We hide. We hide. So, well, everybody, you probably have a pretty good sense of who I am. I'm a lawyer. I'm a licensed attorney in Florida, but I don't practice. I am a Florida certified family mediator. I am an educator at the University of Central Florida. I also do professional development for professional associations, lawyers, and mediators. And I'm also a certified yoga instructor, have been for well over 20 years. And really, that came before all of the law stuff. It's at the heart of who I am. Was that good, Vikram?
Yeah, that's important because people have to know where all this is coming from. Otherwise,
Okay.
Well, everyone keeps saying mediation and meditation. People confuse, or someone is going to watch this and say, "What is Vikram doing?" Now he's promoting meditation. So it was important.
That's funny. That's funny. So yes. So now you know. And you know what? It was just all part of the buildup. You know, we call it teasing in advertising. Everybody's wondering, their interest is piqued, and now they know. Kept them in. So I'm going to just get us back to here and talk about these reasons for all of these practices. For us as conflict navigators, it's because we put positive or negative ripples into the room when we're mediating, when we're navigating conflict. Who we are and how we are just influences others. We can send these positive ripples or negative ripples into a group. And this largely happens on an unconscious level at first. Researcher Elaine Hatfield out of the University, I don't know why that's happening. Researcher Elaine Hatfield out of the University of Hawaii has made it her life's work to experiment and research emotional contagion. Her thesis is that emotional contagion happens as a result of the mirror neurons in our brains. We are natural mimics as a result of those. And so we naturally mimic vocal intonation, body posture, facial expression. And the theory is that those things cause a feedback loop through our bodies, causing us to experience a reflection of what is happening with the other person. And so my thesis is that when we can regulate what's happening here, we can intentionally send the kind of ripples that we want to into the mediation room or into the room wherever we are navigating conflict. So the challenge really is that when we are in conflict, we really usually aren't the best version of ourselves. We'll see in the next few slides why that is. It's because what conflict does to us, we can either move into a fight, which you're seeing right here. We can move into a freeze or flight state. And the reasons for these responses, it's the autonomic nervous system. So this autonomic nervous system has two branches. It's the sympathetic nervous system that's in charge of the fight-flight response, and the parasympathetic nervous system that's responsible, under Stephen Portis's polyvagal theory, the freeze response. The other part of the parasympathetic nervous system is rest and digest, which is where we want to be, where we do our best logical thinking. But when we are in that fight, flight, or sympathetic nervous system, our prefrontal cortex actually goes offline so that we can move into quick action. And when we are in freeze, it's said that the same thing happens. And so when we move into those states, we may be engaging in behaviors that are not intentional because this center of logical thought really has gone temporarily offline. So this is Stephen Portis's polyvagal theory, and they always show it as a ladder, which I find is very, very helpful. And so for those of you who are mediators, I think that this is incredibly helpful to know this ladder in case you have people in your room who may be demonstrating some of these, the two bottom rung states, and maybe understand how to help them move out. And so at the bottom, we have this dorsal vagal activation. That's part of the parasympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system. And so in this dorsal vagal activation state, people can become dissociated. They can feel be shut down. It can look like they're glazed over. And this usually happens when people feel helpless and hopeless, that they can't effectuate any sort of action in their environment. Nothing matters. And so sometimes this happens quite a bit in emotionally charged mediation. And then you move up the ladder to the sympathetic activation. And so this is, as it says, mobilized, agitated, frantic. People can become angry. People can just want to leave the room, and people feel unsafe. And then at the very top, we have the ventral vagal activation, which is also part of that parasympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system, where we're doing our best thinking. So in this state, we're safe, we are engaged, and this is where truly the prefrontal cortex is doing its thing in helping us engage in logical thought. Any questions about that, Vikram? I know it was heavy.
No, not at all. I know it's going to be heavy.
So you can see here, I mean, this is a no-brainer, right? Self-regulation is crucial to successful conflict resolution, because we need to be able to know what's happening here and regulate here and be that positive ripple in the pond. And it really does begin with good self-awareness. I think of these practices as building capacity. When I work with my undergrad students, especially, they're usually highly anxious and scared. It's a scary world, and they know too much about the world. And I think that these kinds of practices at their age are so very important. And so I tell them it's like putting pennies in a jar, our US currency of these little copper coins, putting them into a jar. And so the effects over time build our capacity. And so this enhanced self-awareness leads to enhanced self-regulation under stress, leading to the positive emotions and behaviors for others to mirror. So there is some science here, and I think that the science is important. The science is in its infancy, but these are studies out of Harvard and Massachusetts General Hospital, Boston Medical, on meditation and yoga. And so Sarah Lazar was a researcher out of Harvard, and she had started meditating and wondered why she was feeling the way that she was feeling. She was feeling better, but because she's a scientist, she wanted to put it into a scientific study. And so this study actually had participants meditating for 40 minutes a day, which is a lot for many people. I believe that they're going to be doing subsequent studies on lesser time periods of meditation. But in this particular one, it was 40 minutes a day, and it was mindfulness-based stress reduction, that technique. And they measured their gray matter. I know that they did not open up their craniums, but they measured their gray matter at the beginning of the study, and they measured their gray matter at the end. And the studies did show a thickening of gray matter in the areas that we want to be larger. Those areas of the brain, like the prefrontal cortex, that are responsible for logical, methodical thinking. And for yoga, this was a really cool study. GABA is a neurotransmitter that low levels of which are associated with depression. And so they wanted to find out why people were feeling so uplifted after yoga class. And so they ran this like a study as well, with the control group doing aerobics and the main group doing yoga. And what they showed was an overall increase in GABA levels of practitioners, yoga practitioners, of 27%. And the yoga practitioners who had been practicing longer, more in their life, longer periods of years, and also who did yoga more often during the week, experienced rises in GABA anywhere from 47 to 87%. So that was quite remarkable. And I think hopeful that, I guess, science got curious about why these things were working for people. And now for those who like science and want to know why things work the way they do, we've got some scientific research. And I do have URLs for those studies if anyone is interested in diving deeper. So this brings us to one of my favorite researchers who coined the phrase, who discovered something called the relaxation response. It's Dr. Herbert Benson. He is out of the Benson Henry Institute out of Massachusetts General Hospital. He has been researching the relaxation response for over 40 years. And it was in the 70s when some transcendental meditation practitioners came to him and they said, "Dr. Benson, why do we feel so good?" And he said, "I don't know, let's find out." And so that's where his exploration of this relaxation response started. And really, what he has found in all of his studies is that the relaxation response is your personal ability to shift into that good part of the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest state. And it can be achieved really as simply as working with the breath in specific ways. You can also achieve this state through calming activities such as yoga and Tai Chi, acupuncture, any mindful martial art, many, many different ways to achieve this response. And again, as easy as working with the breath. And that is exactly what Vikram and I are going to do right now. So we're going to do some breath work. We're going to do some simple movements. And I encourage all of you who are watching to follow along with us if it is appropriate for you and see how you feel at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my share screen. And here we are. Back together again, Vikram.
Kiki, before you go forward, let me also link it to the theme of the symposium, because the way mediation is and has been practiced is part of it. And what you're bringing is actually a very important aspect of it, which I've been talking about a number of times. Because when you link all these things, mindfulness, yoga, meditation, finally, all this is moving towards a certain spirituality. And that spirituality, that is, I've been saying, the mediator and his energy and all that, which cannot be taught, it is not gauged, it is part of the whole process. So this is what brings that in. So that's why I'm just linking it to the aspect of it. Some people who might think, well, why are we doing this? It is very important for people to be doing all this, because that actually enhances, or maybe makes you what you are, not just enhances, makes you what you are.
Absolutely. It's the power of presence. And I suppose that, Vikram, I could relate this to those people that we think about in the world as having a powerful, peaceful presence. And when you are in a room with them, the energy shifts and you feel somehow comforted. And, thankfully, we have science for those who like science and who like to analyze these things, but it truly is something that those of us who have been doing these practices for a number of years realize this is really where our power lies. This is where my power lies as a professor, truly, when I come into the room, if I was to deliver content without all of the work that I have done here, my students would not be learning the way that they're learning. Because what happens when we have a peaceful presence, their autonomic nervous systems begin to attune to ours. They often say that I leave class feeling calm, and you help me learn because it was a calming environment, and I feel refreshed and comforted. So yes, it's all part of the deal.
Yeah, and a very important part of the deal, which
Absolutely.
I think is not focused on. And what you're really doing is actually, we need to put a focus on this, and not, there is a lot of other training and everything people talk about, but this is what is important. That whole presence, like you said, that's.
Yeah. And you know, for those who do like the scientific part, if you can think of it as your presence and your centeredness and your mindfulness and your ability to be present and have your physiology calmed through, we know how it works. It's like a Wi-Fi of emotional contagion that happens in the room, begins to calm the people who are in the room. If you can think of it as you having it together here is going to translate into having the participants in the room become better problem solvers, because they are going to be able to shift states into that rest and digest area, the ventral vagal activation of social and engaged and problem solving. But if you yourself are not right, if you yourself are feeling anxious, and you yourself are not regulated, that is going to translate into most likely people who are already dysregulated somewhat because they're in conflict, and they may be scared and they may be anxious, becoming even worse and moving into either, you know, the dorsal vagal activation of shutting down, or the sympathetic activation of the fight flight agitation. Absolutely. Oh, I just lost your audio, Vikram.
Not from my end.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
Here you are. Okay.
So at the end of the session, I will definitely talk to you about something which has come out from this, but I'll do it at the end of the session, not right now.
Okay. All right. So the first thing that we're going to learn is comes from one of my favorite teachers, Pema Chodron. She's a Tibetan Buddhist teacher, and I think she's 83 years old now, and has the wit and the wisdom of a person much younger. And as I say that, I do not want to diminish the wit and wisdom of someone who's 83 years old. Let's just say Pema Chodron is timeless. It's called pause practice. And all it is that we take 3 mindful breaths, mindful being we are present with the inhale and the exhale when we are in the midst of our day. It is as simple as that. And then we're going to layer it. We're going to add on to the pause practice with some things that can help evoke the relaxation response. You ready? Let's just take 3 breaths together. So let's take a nice inhale. Good job. And your inhale and exhale may be a different length than mine, which is just completely fine. So you can do that at any time in the day, maybe even during a mediation. You're catching yourself, maybe picking up on some contagion from the conflict. You're feeling some things happening in here, muscle tension, blood pressure going out, beginning to get hot. Ooh, my sympathetic nervous system has been triggered. I'm going to take these three deep breaths. And we're going to layer onto this. It's said that the relaxation response can be elicited by lengthening the exhale. So the exhale is just slightly longer than the inhale. And it's said that the nervous system takes its cue from that and begins to move over into that parasympathetic rest and digest state. So one of the easiest ways that you can lengthen the breath, and through yogic practices, we call it Ujjai breath or victory breath. When I teach this to people who've never done that before, I use something called the ha breath that creates the same resonance in the throat, but is a little bit easier to achieve. And so it just looks like this. It's an inhale. Let's try 3 of those. So take a nice inhale. One more. Good. All right, so we're going to add another layer. And Vikram, at this point, I invite you to think of a word that brings you a sense of calm, a sense of ease. It can be something from a chosen faith. It can be something from a place in the world that you like, something that you like to do, a person's name. Just, and you who are watching, friends, please, I invite you to think of that word. Just take a moment. And your word can change. And now we're going to pair that word internally. You're going to say it to yourself in your mind as we exhale. And we're going to take the same 3 breaths. And we're going to use the ha breath as well. So it's 3 breaths, ha breath, using your helpful word said internally to yourself on your exhale. All right, let's go. Let's take a nice inhale. Good job. How do you feel, Vikram?
I'm telling you, I am always so at peace with things. It always, obviously, it's nice to be like that, but it's just, I don't know. I'm just saying that this is the state I am all the time. So
that's wonderful. That's wonderful. I will tell you that I feel when I was doing that, I felt my feet. I really felt my feet begin to ground. And I began to feel almost my body began to become more alive and calm at the same time. So one thing that I want to note is that these practices can be done with the eyes open or the eyes closed. It doesn't matter, whatever feels good and safe to you. Absolutely. So let's move on to another breathing exercise. It's called the Ferris wheel breath. And this breath is very calming for the nervous system. It's also something very nice to use if you are having trouble sleeping. I don't know, Vikram, are Ferris wheels international? Are they called something else throughout the world? You know, the London Eye, the London Eye.
We, of course, we have them. in the local language, obviously they have a word for that. But yes, they're there. But the smaller ones, I mean, obviously the larger ones like the London Eye, we don't have those, but they are the small little carnivals that you have. So they have these small things, and actually you'll be surprised that people that roam around with a very small one into residential areas also. For the little kids, they do it right there, very small one.
Yes. I have seen those.
Yeah.
They're charming. They're really delightful. I wish I had had one. And so it's a circle, right? The circle goes up and the circle comes back down. And so in your mind's eye, eyes open or closed, I'd like for you to imagine a circle encompassing your body. And so the circle is moving from the tips of your toes, and it moves all the way up the front of the body to the crown of the head. And then the circle moves all the way down the back of your body, down to the heels and under the bottoms of your feet. And so pairing that with the breath, from the tips of the toes, as you inhale, you move the circle all the way up the front of the body to the crown of the head. I'm just using my hands as an example. And then as you exhale, the circle moves all the way back down the back of your body, down to the heels, under the bottoms of the feet, and back down to the toes. And so let's do a few rounds of that, imagining that circle, your breath, and your mindfulness moving up the body and then back down the back of your body, taking a few rounds. In your mind's eye, focusing your mind on the breath and the movement of the breath as it tracks the various points of the body. And so your complete focus becomes both the breath and where the breath is in relation to where you are. On your Ferris wheel. And let's take 2 more deep breaths. Good job. All right, well, welcome back. So let's do some little exercises. I teach this in chair yoga with lawyers. These are just little things that you can do during the day to release tension in your body. And so we're going to start with a little hand movement called chasing the dragons. And so we bring our wrists up like this, and we begin to rotate the hands as if this was the most interesting thing that you have ever done in your entire life. Watching the movement of the hands and then reversing the movement. Remembering to breathe and anchoring yourself with the breath in the present moment. Good, good, good. And then these hands of ours are doing so many things during the day. Just take a moment to stretch out your fingers. Can you give me sun hands, Vikram? Jazz hands, as we say in the US, jazz hands. And now this is going to look goofy. We're going to scrunch our faces and our hands like this. And then we're going to open up our eyes and our hands and give me a ha. Ha. And then crunch the hands again. Scrunch your face like you've had a lemon. And ha. One more time. I'm doing this internationally now. I cannot believe I'm doing this. Okay, scrunch your face, scrunch your hands, and give me another one. Ha, good. And can we make little jellyfish? We're going to swim with our little jellyfish hands. When I've taught this to middle schoolers, they love this. And so this hand articulation is so very powerful for those of us who work on keyboards. We develop tension in our hands and our forearms. And so we just make these little jellyfish swim. Good. Good. And then you might feel some burning if you've been on a keyboard. And so let's just do some rhythmic shaking. Shake it out. Can you shake it up high? Ah. And shake it on down low. Can you shake it to the side? And shake it to the side. So in India, there's this doctor who developed laughter yoga.
Yeah.
And are you familiar with laughter yoga, Vikram?
Yep.
Yeah. So he concluded through his research that laughter, even faked laughter, forced laughter, was as effective for the physiology as real laughter. So we're going to do a little bit of a tribute to that wonderful doctor. Are you ready to look ridiculous?
I'll mute myself.
All right. Unmute, Vikram. I can't be alone in this. You ready?
Yep.
Okay. I've actually done this with my law clients when they've been stressed out, and they have loved it. All right. So we're just going to do a ha, ha, ha. Ha, ha, ha.
Ha, 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 ha.
Ha, ha, ha.
Ha, ha, ha.
Ha, 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 ha.
Ha, 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 ha.
All right. So we're going to do it 3 times. Ha, ha, ha. Ha, ha, ha. Ha, 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 ha. Ha, ha, ha. Ha, ha, ha. Ha, 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 ha. Ha, ha, ha. Ha, ha, ha. Ha, 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 ha. Ha, 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 ha. Good. Can we do a snap and a clap together? Give me a snap and a clap. Good. All right. So there are so many different things that we can begin to do. Another thing that we can do has to do with the way that the autonomic nervous system senses muscle compression. So if we are working during the day and we are getting stressed out, firm squeezes on the arms. You can try it out, Vikram, if you'd like. And it's almost like a form of self-massage, really getting into the muscle and getting into that part of the shoulder where we hold often so much tension. All of these things can serve to help the nervous system say, hey, I'm safe. I'm going to move into the place where I do my best methodical, logical thinking, that relaxation response, rest and digest state. And you can go to the other arm, just firm squeezes. Everything's okay. Give it a squeeze. I haven't done my yoga this morning, so a little tight. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
So related to that, we can put our hands, if you are able, on the shoulders and just do some nice shoulder rolls, bringing the elbows back, bringing the elbows forward. And as we're doing this, we are using the breath. So I like to inhale when my elbows are back and exhale when they're coming forward. And let's reverse that. Good job. Good job. And I'm going to leave us enough room to converse after this, but this was just a little taste. We're going to finish up with a body scan. And for those of you who are watching, you can be You can be sitting, you can be laying down, anything that feels good, eyes open, eyes closed, anything is fine. This body scan will just take a few minutes, but in your practice, it can be achieved in as little as a minute, 30 seconds scanning the body. And so I invite you to get comfortable, and I'm not going to ask you to relax. I'm just going to invite you to just be present with however you're feeling. And through that presence, bring your attention in your mind's eye to the crown of your head. And as your attention is resting on the crown of your head, and the breath is moving in and out, just begin to sense that area of your body, however it's showing up. You may choose to pair your helpful word with your exhale. And now I invite you to move your attention down to your temple points. Same thing, attention lightly resting there. The breath moves in and out. Moving your attention now down to the jaw hinges. Down to the tip of the chin. And now gently gliding your attention down the throat, the back of the neck, allowing that compassionate, gentle attention to move down over your shoulders into your shoulder joints. Down the upper arms into the elbows. Down the forearms into the wrists. And moving your attention out through the thumbs, the index fingers, the middle fingers, the ring fingers, and the pinkies, your little fingers. And then drawing the attention back up into the palms of your hands, moving back up to the wrists, all the way up the forearms into the elbows, the upper arms, the shoulders. Bringing your attention now to pull right into the heart center, the chest. Staying with the breath as it moves in and out. And if your mind wanders to other places, that's okay. That's what the mind does. Just gently and without judgment, bring it back to the breath and back to where you are in your mind's eye. And then bringing your attention down to your solar plexus, the upper belly. Moving down to the lower belly and hips. Allowing the attention to flow over the tops of your legs and under the bottoms of your legs into the knees. Down the calves and the shins into the ankles. And then bringing your attention to just float over the tops of your feet and under the bottoms of your feet. And then I'll invite you on your next inhale to take a Ferris wheel breath from the tips of your toes all the way up the front of your body to the crown of your head. And as you exhale, the Ferris wheel rides down the back of your body. Let's take one deep breath together and exhale with a ha. And if your eyes are closed, you can open them. And welcome back.
Oof, that was nice, Kiki.
Oh,
That was
good.
that was nice.
That's my specialty.
This is what we need. This is exactly what you need. This is the kind of training. That's all that's required. Everything else will flow around it. All the energy levels and everything.
That's why I teach. It's the second week of my undergrad mediation course is all focused on this, and they thought I was crazy. And now that they have begun to do role plays, now they're understanding what they're calling the method to my madness.
Good. We need that out there. Instead of that small class, we need it out there with this, whoever it reaches. I'm sure this is something which should take off. You'll become a cult figure, Kiki the cult figure. To change the way mediation is practiced, forget everything else. This is what you have to work on.
Yes, it is. And Vikram, I also think about this concept of I don't want to call it. It's truly a respect, a deep, abiding, purest sense of love for people. Yep. And concern for their well-being.
Exactly. These are the important things. These are the real important things. And that's what I keep saying. Those people with that mediator mindset, it comes naturally to them. It's just part of them. It's just there. So even to someone to dissect it and say, okay, this part of it is like this person is like that. I mean, it's just part of you. Where do you come out and say, this is where it is? It's there. It's just there. It's interesting. I mean, yeah, I think this is where I think whatever you call it, I keep saying spirituality, but there are a lot of other factors which work. It's a very important things people should know about.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always thought about that, and I had my first mediation class in law school, and of course none of this was done, and we really actually barely even did role plays. And then when I went to Pepperdine, which is a fabulous program, we learned lots of different things, but we never focused on this, with the exception of some important work that we did with Bill Eddy on regulation and what we say, not physiological. And then I did my mediator training here in Florida, and there was just nothing. And I just kept thinking about the very foundations of what we need to be effective. And I don't mind saying that I came into this world a rather anxious person. I was an anxious child, and that's what led me to meditating at 14, because it was just too much for me. And so I think that because of the way that my nervous system was formed, I have had to do these things, and I'm particularly sensitive to stimuli, and that has made me actually really wonderfully empathic and sensitive to what's happening in the room. But also on the other side, I can be very affected by other people. And so for me, this has been one of the most important things that I have been able to bring to education.
Yeah, because the energy that you bring in, there's no gauge to actually tell us or anyone what that is, but all this is definitely a part and parcel of that. So I think this is what we really have to put out there. And this is that's as I was coming to what I have to discuss with you interesting thing that's come out, because by next month I'm going to start a lecture series. So there'll be every Wednesday, because that's the day my golf course is closed now. The symposium was also supposed to be only on Wednesdays, but it's become so big that my Thursdays also. But this is going to be an important part of that. Kiki, you'll have to give some lectures on this. People in the world need all this out there.
Yeah.
So I think we'll have to create one whole curriculum on this aspect of mindfulness and how that is important, and how do you, when you have it or don't have it. I mean, that's something can you be trained to it, how it has to work out. That's what you'll take us through.
Yes, it can definitely be learned. As I said, it's like putting our little American pennies into the jar, and it just takes practice.
Because there's Katarzyna from Poland, her session, she also looks at this aspect, mindfulness in the practice of law and all those things. So she trains lawyers on that. So that's an important area of looking at things. Because I'm saying that things happen in a certain way in a society, in a culture, and sometimes these basic things for some reason get left out, and this is so basic to our existence.
That brings up a very, very interesting point, and I sometimes wonder if those basic things are often overlooked because they are harder to teach by people who are trainers, because our trainers here in the US largely are lawyers. So they don't have this background. Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing to be taken out. I'm sure you're talking to people about this. I'm sure you want to change this aspect of how the teaching of whatever, it could be any subject. I mean, it's not about law or mediation or anything. These important things should not get left out.
Yeah, I teach it wherever I can.
No, we need you out there on a public space, a YouTube channel, and all this little episode is going to create that interest, and let's take it forward, because you as a person should not be out there only in that one class. You need that classroom has to become bigger and bigger. We have to get lots of more people into that.
The world is my classroom.
Yes, exactly. You don't understand that how special you are, what you bring in. Maybe you don't realize it, but I think the world has to know. Thank
you, Vikram. Thank you. I will take that spirit with me as I move into my day and the inevitable challenges that come. But I will take that into my heart and lead with that. Thank you.
Thank you for being you.
Thank you for being you, Vikram. I appreciate all that you're doing to help our world. This is awesome. It's fabulous.
Well, thank you for being part of all this. And of course, we have to have a closing session, closing words, closing address, whatever you want to call it, please.
Oh, okay. Well, everyone, thank you for being on this journey with Vikram and I. And please know that this is not where the journey has to end. If you would like to know more, if you'd like any of the supporting scientific information that I provided today, please reach out to me through LinkedIn. I also have a website where my information can be found, kkgrossman.com.
Perfect.
And let's just finish with a deep breath together. How about that?
Yeah.
All right. So let's take a nice inhale. Give me a ha. Good job, everyone. Give us a round of applause for everybody who has watched. And I'm sending you good thoughts for a fabulous day.
A major round of applause for you. I think you just, it was always, just your energy. It's so nice to be with you. It's so nice. It's just there. I don't know how someone can put words to it, but it's just there. Lovely.
Thank you.